You know what they crave, right? A twitch, a crack, a raised brow, a clenched jaw. That little shake in your voice. That's all they wait for. That tiny break in your armor that screams, "You got to me." And when they see it, oh, it feeds them. It gives them purpose. It validates every dirty little scheme they've run behind your back. So let me teach you something they'll never say out loud. Silence. It's a weapon. It's the coldest form of revenge. You walk in, no smiles, no greetings, just eyes that have seen hell and came back colder. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need fists to win wars. You just need to not react. Because when you react, you give them power. When you respond, they calculate. But when you're silent, you're a storm with no schedule. And that terrifies them. People don't fear loud. Loud is predictable. Loud is controllable. It's the quiet ones that unsettle the room. The ones who watch, who listen, who don't need to bark to bite. You ever seen a snake hiss before it strikes? No. It coils. It waits. And just when the prey gets cocky, boom, done. That's silence. That's composure. That's knowing your worth without needing to explain it. And when they gossip, when they twist your name, when they joke about your fall, stay still, stay cold. 'Cause nothing drives a traitor more insane than realizing the person they betrayed didn't even flinch. You get me? This world, it's full of noise. Empty noise. People yelling for validation, screaming for attention, making noise to cover up the fact they got nothing real inside. And the second you try to explain yourself, you enter their circus. You dance in their chaos. But when you hold your tongue, when you stand your ground and just watch, you make them nervous. You become unreadable. And nothing scares the manipulative more than someone they can't manipulate. So when they push your buttons, disconnect the damn board. Make them wonder if they ever even had control. They'll test you. They'll whisper in circles. They'll poke, hoping you explode. They want that reaction. Not because it solves anything, but because it proves you're still playing their game. Don't play it. Create your own. Make silence your answer. Make distance your dialogue. Let your success scream while your mouth stays shut. Because when you react, you confirm their relevance. But when you don't, you kill their existence in your world. You think pain needs to be expressed to be healed? Nah. Sometimes healing is done in shadows, with your own damn hands. You stitch your soul together without applause. And that, my friend, makes you dangerous. People can't stand a quiet fighter. One who doesn't whine. One who doesn't beg. One who rebuilds in silence and returns unannounced. They'll ask each other, what's he thinking? Why isn't he mad? That paranoia. That's your presence working in silence. That's you haunting their comfort. That's you being more terrifying without a single word spoken. You want to win? Control your reactions. Control your silence. Be a man of few words. But when those words drop, let them hit like bombs. Let your calmness be the thing that unnerves rooms. Let your lack of response be the echo in their heads when they lay at night wondering if you're done or just preparing. And trust me, the second you master silence, you no longer walk into rooms. You own them. You ever notice how the loudest people in the room always seem the weakest when the lights go off? That's because noise is a mask, a distraction from their lack of depth. But silence ain't empty. It's full of answers, full of power, full of revenge that doesn't need witnesses. See, most people, they want applause for their pain, sympathy for their scars. They want the world to hear how they've been wronged, how they deserve better. But the truth is, the real ones, the real monsters, They don't make announcements. They don't cry about the betrayal. They get quiet. They disappear. And when they return, they don't come back for explanations. They come back for results, for payback, and not in screams, in silence, in success, in moves nobody saw coming. Because real pain doesn't shout. It whispers. It builds. It evolves. And when it's done evolving, it doesn't need permission to destroy everything that stood against it. I've seen it. The fake smiles, the backhanded compliments, the little passive jabs people throw your way, and if you react, they act shocked like, whoa, why are you so sensitive? But that's the game. They provoke, you explode, and they play the victim. It's Loop, a rigged deck, so you want to really mess with their heads. But don't react. Let them walk around wondering why their tricks stopped working. Let them drown in their own noise while you upgrade in silence. Because when you stay calm, when you don't feed their need for attention, you become a ghost. They can't touch, but they still feel you. Every room they enter, they look over their shoulder. Every time your name comes up, there's a pause, a silence. That's when you know you've got control. And don't mistake silence for weakness. Nah, weakness is when you let others dictate your emotions, when you let their actions pull you like a puppet. But silence, that's choice, that's strength. That's you saying, I see everything, but I choose not to dance to your noise. It's you watching them drown in their own drama while you sip your peace like it's fine wine. You see, reacting is easy. Anyone can raise their voice, throw a fit, slam a door. That's predictable. That's expected. But holding your tongue when you've got every reason to spit fire? That's elite. That's scary. That's power most people will never understand. Because silence doesn't beg. It doesn't explain. It doesn't seek validation. It simply observes. And strikes when the timing's perfect. They'll say you've changed, that you're cold, that you don't care anymore. Let them. Let them build stories in their heads trying to fill in the blanks you left behind. Let them run in circles chasing a reaction that never comes. Because the second you stop explaining yourself, the second you stop reacting to every little jab, they realize you're no longer accessible. And people fear what they can't access, what they can't control. You've become a mystery, a question with no answer. And there's nothing more terrifying than someone who stopped talking and started building your silence. That's your evolution. It's where you stop being a pawn and start becoming the board, where every move is calculated, every step is lethal. You stop entertaining clowns and start becoming the riddle they can't solve. And when they finally realize they can't touch you, when they finally see that their noise no longer reaches your frequency, that's when you've won. Not with noise, not with drama, with silence. Cold, calculated, surgical silence, the kind that doesn't end conversation. It ends the war. They can't tell if you're calm or plotting, if you're done or just quiet before the storm. And that fear, that not knowing, that's your advantage. That's how you reclaim power without ever raising your voice. And they'll feel it in the awkward pauses when your name is mentioned, in the silence that follows their fake jokes, in the pit of their gut when they realize you no longer react. Not because you're numb, but because you're done, because you've outgrown the space where they exist. So keep building in silence. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let them believe they've won. Because one day they'll look around and realize they can't reach you anymore. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not even mentally. You've climbed out of their reach. And you did it without saying a word. You did it by learning the power of silence, by understanding that sometimes the loudest "I'm done" doesn't need to be said. It just needs to be felt, and they'll feel it. every day, every time they sit in the quiet they thought they wanted. Because eventually, they'll realize the silence you left behind was the loudest thing they'll ever hear. You want to know what silence does to people who betrayed you? It eats them alive. Slowly. Quietly. It doesn't show up like rage does. No fire, no screaming, no breaking things. Just space, distance, and that space becomes their torture chamber. Because the thing about silence, it gives them time to think. And when you give a guilty person time to think, they unravel. You're no longer defending yourself. You're not playing the role they assigned you in their sick little narrative. You're gone. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, gone. And that's the real punishment. Not revenge, not war, not screaming matches in hallways or text fights at 2 a.m. No. The punishment is them realizing the best version of you is no longer accessible. That the loyalty they played with, the heart they took for granted, the presence they got used to, it's never coming back. And they'll start to feel it in the most random places, in moments that don't even make sense. A song, a smell, a silence. That's how haunted you become when you walk away without a sound. There's something sacred about not reacting, something dangerous, because when you stop reacting, you stop bleeding. You stop leaking emotions into hands that only wanted to stain them. You stop giving them the blueprint to destroy you, and that scares them. That breaks them. Because people don't know how to fight silence. They know how to argue. They know how to manipulate. But they don't know what to do when the person they used to control suddenly doesn't respond anymore. You become a black hole. No noise, no energy, no explanation, just presence. And that presence becomes heavier than any shout ever could. You walk into a room and say nothing, and the whole atmosphere changes, because silence carries weight. It carries memories, it carries warnings, and the ones who hurt you, they feel it. They feel it more than anything you could ever say. You got to understand, not everyone deserves your words. Some people are too far gone, too busy playing victim to ever hear your truth. So why waste breath on explanations they'll only spin? Why waste time giving closure to someone who already closed the door behind your back? Let your silence be the closure. Let your absence be the answer. Let your peace be the revenge. And I promise you, nothing hits harder than indifference. When you stop caring, stop chasing, stop begging to be understood. They feel it. It burns. It echoes. Because deep down they knew you were real. They knew what they had. They just gambled on the idea that you'd never leave. So when you finally do, and you do it without warning, that's when they break. That's when they sit with the ghosts of all the versions of you they destroyed, trying to remember when it all slipped away. And don't get it twisted. Staying silent doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough to let karma do the talking. You don't need to shout to shake the earth. You don't need to fight to win the war. You just need to know who you are. Because once you know that, once you realize your worth doesn't live in their validation, you stop reacting. You stop proving. You stop explaining yourself to people who would rather see you broken than healed. And that's where your power is born. That's where you become dangerous. Because silence makes you unpredictable. Silence makes you untouchable. And when you've been through hell and chose not to scream, that's when they know you're not the same. You're not here for drama, you're here for peace. But if they cross that line again, you'll end it without a sound. Just a silence so final, it'll echo forever in the back of their mind. There comes a moment when silence becomes not just a choice, but a way of life. A lifestyle. A damn shield you wear like armor, forged in every betrayal you never reacted to. And the people who once thought they had you wrapped around their fingers, they don't recognize you anymore. Because silence changes you. It refines you. You stop chasing closure. You stop seeking justice. You realize that some wars aren't worth fighting because the battlefield is filthy and your soul deserves better. Or you step back. You erase your presence from their chaos. No goodbye, no explanations. Just gone. And when they look around, expecting your voice to echo, your defense to kick in, your energy to fuel their drama, and it never comes, that's when the silence hits them like a freight train. Because they didn't just lose access to your voice, they lost access to your spirit. They thought you'd always be there, didn't they? That no matter how many times they disrespected your peace, twisted your truth, or took your loyalty for granted, you'd come back, apologize, beg, explain. But not this time. This time you've grown teeth beneath your silence. This time you've mastered the art of the unreadable, and that terrifies them, because they don't know who you are anymore. The soft version of you. Gone. The version that waited for texts, forgave too quickly, explained too much. Buried. What stands in your place now is something colder, smarter, sharper. Not out of spite, but out of necessity. Because the more noise you cut, the more peace you gain, the more reactions you withhold, the more power you reclaim. And when your energy becomes that protected, people can feel it. They sense that wall, that gate, that line they can't cross anymore. And if they dare to try, they'll be met with nothing but silence. Not because you don't have something to say, but because they no longer deserve to hear it. You see, silence isn't empty. It's calculated. It's precise. It's loaded with every unspoken truth you once wasted breath trying to explain. And now you let the silence scream for you. Because when you finally realize that the most powerful response is no response at all, everything shifts. Your focus changes. Your goals sharpen. You stop entertaining. You stop arguing. You stop justifying your healing to people who never cared about your wounds in the first place. And you watch as they self-destruct, trying to get a rise out of you, trying to trigger the old you. But the old you is gone. The one who used to react, dead. And in its place stands someone who walks with purpose and speaks only when it counts. And that's silence. That's lethal. Because it doesn't come from weakness. It comes from the scars they can't see. The battles you fought alone. The nights you stayed quiet while screaming inside. And now, you don't scream. You rebuild. Brick by quiet brick. Until one day your presence becomes their revenge. And they'll swear you've changed. Damn right you did. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth is isolating. But silence made you see everything clearer. You noticed the fake loyalty, the one-sided conversations, the hollow apologies. And you didn't confront it. You studied it. You stopped asking, why did they do this to me? And started saying, I'm glad I saw them for who they are. That shift, that silence, that's when your soul woke up. And once it wakes up, it doesn't go back to sleep. You don't beg to be understood anymore. You let your peace do the talking. You let your work, your success, your discipline scream louder than any rant you could have delivered. And one day, they'll scroll through a feed and see your face, elevated, calm, thriving. And it'll hit them, damn, they didn't just walk away, they evolved. And that evolution, that's what silence gave you. That's what not reacting built.